Hello, EP2. I hope you're all doing very well. I hope you all having a good week. Uh, this this week brings us into our final third, as it were, into storytelling, and it should be quite interesting. Today is a general overview of about storytelling, how we do it, how it can be done, all those excellent fun things. Uh, we are going to have the giving feedback group activity, but I want to be perfectly blunt. I want to try it out with a smaller group. I'm trying out the same activity, the same project with a with a different class and seeing how it goes before I try it with the larger group that is EP2. So uh, uh, just be patient with that. We'll take care of it. No worries there. And but let's talk about storytelling. All right. All right. Stories are great. People, humans, have been learning through stories for what? As long as we've been able to say words and communicate, humans have told stories. It helps us remember things. It helps humans remember things and also learn better through the metaphor, through the entertainment. We can take in a lot of information. Also, stories help explain the unexplainable things. So, a lot of old stories, fairy tales, fables, folk tales, myths, legends, those are all very easy and have more universal morals, universal lessons, so to speak. Uh, so these are a great way to teach, yeah, good morals or life lessons, and this helps children develop empathy and sympathy for others. It's something that I'm sure you're aware of, but you may not be. Humans, people, us, we're very selfish, incredibly selfish, especially children, especially adolescents as well. It's a part of the natural growing process. Asking a middle school boy to care about you know some poor person in another city, let alone another country, let alone another continent, you will get a you shouldn't be surprised by a harsh, sarcastic, demeaning response because um, children have to empathy and sympathy are not, they seem to be skills we have to learn, and not all of us learn them at the same rate. So stories can help that, because just being told you should be nice to someone, that doesn't actually help them become a nicer person. So, characteristics of a good story. This is quite important. Uh, there's lots of stories, but there's a lot of bad stories. So, one, there's a single, clearly defined theme, or dearly defined, as it would have it. In that, what is the story about? It's about one thing. Don't try to overcomplicate it with lots of things. We don't have time in class for elementary school students to handle very complex narratives, especially with unreliable narrators or things like that. Especially when we're talking about English stories, it's just keep it simple. It does help, though, to have a plot, a story, a well developed plot to keep things interesting. In order for students to care, there has to be something for them to care about. The third, it really helps to have it be interesting and be able to have the stylized, vivid word pictures, pleasing sounds or strange sounds, to have it be alive, to have the story be alive. Think about, and we'll have examples as well. Think about every good story you ever heard. Was it delivered? It was delivered with enthusiasm and energy. It wasn't delivered in a flat tone. It had excitement in it. Fourth, it helps have characters and develop the characters in some way for a good story so that the students care about them and want the characters to do well. They want the characters to win at the end, and that there's some dramatic appeal, there's some sense of danger about it. Oh, not all stories are like this, of course. There's always exceptions. Give you an example. Now, if we look just at some of these pictures here, we can see this is Dangun, grandfather Dangun, the mythological founder of Korea. Now, you know his story, but is there any drama in his story? Not that I know of. Not in the versions I've read. There's no scary things or any possibility of failure. It's just Dangun, well, Hwangun comes down, and that's not Dangun. He marries a bear lady, and they have a baby. That baby's Dangun. All these wonderful things. And look at that one. That's cute. Now, that is cute. That's nice. Now, so not all stories follow this same pattern, but it helps out a lot, a whole lot of having these characteristics. And also try to remember that we need to keep things simple. We don't need to bring in overly complicated stories or plot lines or narrative models. Something that we as storytellers must do is we must stimulate the listeners and the watcher, the audience's senses, make them want to listen and pay attention, because stories are very easy to fall off of. So the listeners, the audience, they have to give the storyteller their undivided attention, which is a real thing, and so they can't drift off. So when we're getting ready for storytelling, we have to prepare. We can't just read a story the first time in the class with the students. It's not going to work, and the students are going to know it. So it helps that we analyze the story. We know what the story is about. We know how the story is going to end, and we know what the story means. We know the answers to all the questions we're going to ask the students. Research its background so we can. Sometimes students like asking, "What is that? Why is that? Why is he doing that?" And sometimes it's helped to know in what context the story was made. When we talk about different examples of stories, there are lots of similar stories from different cultures, and it's nice to know the background of them. Visualizing, thinking about how to make visual aids if needed, and how to use the visual aids if they're provided. It's an important part. A lot of people can't just listen to a person's voice for too many minutes. If you've got audio, this could be sound effects, this could be background music to help set the mood, this could be you making sounds, things like that. You want to make sure that you know what you're going to do before you do it, so it can go well. And lastly, this one's important. Practice reading your story and performing your story before you actually do it. Rehearse it. It helps a lot. You don't have to memorize a story. We're not the bards of old memorizing, Homer's Odyssey. It's okay to change some things, minor things especially. But and also, it's okay to read from the book, but it's important that we are familiar enough that we don't have to read from the book carefully, that we can look back at the audience and engage with the audience. That's important. That's why it's important to at least know the first and last lines by heart, so we can engage with the audience as we're beginning and as we are ending. Story structure, very I'm sure you learned this in school, but it is a real thing. Stories have a beginning, a middle, an end, and falling action, is what we call it. So, the introduction, the beginning, setting the stage. Where is the story taking place? Who are the main characters? And usually, this is before the main problem is introduced. The introduction, the beginning section of the story, often is quite short. If you remember the stories of Hungbu and Notbu, the two brothers, what is the introduction part of that story? Well, two brothers and their families live in the woods. One brother, Hungbu, was not nice, and his wife was very selfish. I don't know about how the children were, and one brother, Nobu, is it Nobu or Hungbu? Hold on, I got them confused. Nobu is the bad one. Hungbu is the good one. Nobu is the Burejige guy. He's the bad guy. Sorry. This is why it's important to know the story and not get confused with the students, in front of the students. All right. So Hungbu is a good guy. He's got good things, good wife, but they're very poor. And Nobu, he's the bad brother. He's very selfish. He's tight-fisted with his money. His wife, doubly so. Then we have the body. We have the conflict. What is the instigating factor in that? Well, in Hungbu and Nobu, Hungbu finds the bird, the sparrow, with the broken leg, and he cares for it, and he loves it, and he helps heal it, and takes care of the bird until it's healed, and it flies away, la 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 la, and then it brings back seeds on another day. They plant the seeds, and kind of like pumpkins grow up, gourds we call them, and they open the gourds and cha-ching, money, 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 money. And so Hungbu is rewarded for his generous and kind behavior. Nobu hears about this, and he wants some money. And this is still part of the conflict, because the climax comes up. Hungbu, how does he get? How's he gonna get a bird? Bird with a broken leg? They're not around everywhere. So he catches one, breaks his leg, which is really mean, and then he heals it. Bird flies away, eventually heals, brings back seeds. The seeds grow into pumpkins or gourds, and Nobu and his wife, they open them up. And I've heard two versions, and this is something where you can change it. One, it was the Korean mountain troll, the Dokebi, comes out with a big hammer, a big mallet, and just starts beating them up. Just pop, 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 for their selfishness. The other version I heard is that a bunch of crows come out and start pecking at him, like really hurting them that way. So, whichever. So the crisis there, the climax there, is when Nobu gets his just desserts, his reward for his behavior. His lifetime of behavior is rewarded. But because Hungbu's he's a loving brother, we should always love our family, never give up on them. He takes in and helps his brother, who is now reformed and going to be a good and better man, and make a successful chain of Burejjigae restaurants. Now, I cut out a lot. There's the incident with the Hungbu goes to ask his brother for some rice, and he gets smacked in the face with a rice spoon. But that's the main basic story. And as when it comes to you to tell a story, you'll have time consideration to deal with, and also the level of your students or the appropriateness of the material. Sometimes we need to change the story because what the story isn't 100% good for our audience. They'll either not like it, they're not old for it, or it's just not good enough. It's not something we want to talk about at that time. It's like what is it? Hansel and Gretel. A lot of the old German stories, kids die a lot. They die all the time in those stories. In the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, so Hansel and Gretel, Piper, the what else is there? Oh, in Cinderella, they're slicing off parts of people's feet to make them fit into the glass slipper. It's disgusting. We don't like those parts because they're gross. We don't want to scare children anymore. So we took those parts out. If you watch the Disney movies, they took those parts out. They want the happy, romantic parts of the story. They don't like the gross, disgusting parts. They like the cute parts. So it might be that you'll need to change a few small things in your stories as well, when time comes for you to tell a story. It's quite helpful if you practice your stories. Also, it helps to really get the characteristic phrases down. And the example given of "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," that keep recurring. So if you perform certain lines, recurring lines, the emblematic lines of a story the same way, then the kids can get more involved into it. Kids love repetition a lot, especially young children. So if you perform it the same way, "I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down," the kids can get into it too, and they'll say it along as well. But if you perform it differently each time, then the kids don't know, they can't predict, and they can't join in on the fun. It also helps give your characters some personalities in your presentation, in your storytelling. And we've discussed before about the comprehension check questions. When we're reading a story, when we're telling a story, we can pause in the story to make sure that students are following along. We're going back to Hungbo Nobu. We'd be like, "Do you think Hungbo is a good brother?" And they go, "Yes." Or one kid goes, "No! He has no money." It could be like that. Which shows that they are paying attention. So make sure that you discuss and check the student's comprehension while you're telling the story. Because if nobody understands the whole thing, well, you've just wasted, how many minutes of their time? And your time as well? You have to do it all over again sometime later. So it's helpful to make sure the students are understanding the story and the characters and the basics of the theming of the story. And if they're not, you can adjust the story. You can simplify some parts, but you can only do this if you know the story ahead of time, if you're comfortable with the story. It helps also go over difficult vocabulary with your students. Make sure that, there'll be unfamiliar category or unfamiliar vocabulary. Or just hard words, depending on the context, depending on the student's levels, depending on the student's age, all those wonderful things. And then, especially when you're getting towards the end or the act breaks, as it were, what is the story talking about? What is the story talking about? Like Hungbo Nobu, the story, the actual meaning of the story is you should be nice, yes, and especially love your family. Very nice, universal story. You'd be hard-pressed to find a culture anywhere in the world's history that doesn't have that. There's been fictional cultures, but not real ones, that don't have that core part of their belief system, really. Okay. Now that we've discussed, the story elements, let's take a look at delivery elements. You as the presenter, the entertainer, as it were, you are, think about storytelling. You are presenting the story in an entertaining way. That's how it's supposed to be. So be sincere when you're telling the story. Don't act sarcastic. That's not fun. Make it fun. Show enthusiasm. If you don't care, why should the students care? This is true for your lessons as well. Animate your gestures, your voice, your expressions. Give it energy. Make sure that you have energy so the students can feed that energy and they'll feel that energy. That helps out a lot. Now, right now, this lesson, we don't have, I don't have the video camera on because we don't really need it this time. When we do the example, when I make an example storytelling lesson, we'll have that obviously. And so it's something where this is where practice will come in, because you need to be comfortable with your story so you can be animated, so you can think about other parts of your delivery, as it were. Keep eye contact with the students. Show eye contact is often how we show engagement and interest with people, and show that you are interested in them. So we've got all these four things about being enthusiastic and animation and sincerity. And then the last one is be relaxed. Now, to me, I can't do these and relax. If I relax, I can't do these. So maybe you can. That's great. I can't. I'm not a relaxed performer. It's very stressful. So you need to look relaxed. You need to act relaxed. You can't let them see how much stress you have. So that's what I take this to mean. Relax, yes. Appear relaxed. Pretend to relax. Fake to be relaxed. That's an idea. Some skills that we're going to exercise in the next few weeks. Using different voices. Now, this is a bit hard. I'm back. Okay. Present. All right. Now, use different voices for different characters. Now, this is hard. Not all of us, none of us are voice actors in actuality. You know, some people, Billy West, I know, Maurice LaMarche, they're shockingly and offensively talented in being able to make different voices. Not all of us can do that, and that's why they're paid a lot of money. I mean, Dan Castellaneta on The Simpsons, he does about 40 different voices, but he gets paid $1 million per episode too. So, you know, there you go. But we can do different affectations for different voices, different accents if you like. You can change the pitch of it, of your voice. But we'll go into that. Use your voice to create the appropriate atmosphere, tension. This can come through different ways. If it's a scary situation, then you need a sound appropriate for it. You don't need to sound like everything is sunshine and lollipops. You know, when it's something happy. And when something's happy, you don't want to act scared either. So it's something to bear in mind. Use gestures, facial expressions. Use your body. That is very helpful. Become a rubber face. Right? Watch out for the speed of your story, your pacing. This is quite important. This just goes in with our basic lesson as well. Lesson planning and lesson teaching. Know how much time your story takes to tell. Repetition and exaggeration. Remember, you're telling a story, not reporting on factualities. So, repetition, especially with younger students, the Three Little Pigs, the I'll huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house down. That's repetition of key phrases there, and kids get into that. Make sure you ask the students comprehension check questions. That's effectively what they are, and see if the students can predict what will happen next in the story. Now, some stories are very famous and they'll probably know. Other stories, they won't. So trying to guess what will happen next in the story shows that they are paying attention and they're able to guess what might happen. Or they'll be able to create a new way. And this could be a fun way of continuing on from the lesson, from the storytelling, as in the students write what happens next in the story, what happens after that, what happens after the story, they all live happily ever after, what happens the day after in the story. that students can have a lot of fun and be very creative in that way as well. Uh, we need to keep students' attention. Especially if the story is particularly long, 15, 20 minutes. Lord help us if it's 30 or 40 minutes long. That's a long story. Excuse me. Make the students active listeners. Make them active participants in the story. They can be reading their own parts, or they can, make sure you're asking the questions, or reading together. Though that's not as fun in my opinion. But make sure the students are participating in the story process. Obviously, when we're doing our video lessons, that won't be a possibility. But I want us to pretend. We'll need to when things change mood, you'll need to change your voice, however it may be. Change your body, change the speed. If there's a chase sequence, if there's a chase, what story has a chase? In Beauty and the Beast, what's the dad? The dad is being chased by the beast. You remember? And then and the wolves are chasing them, and the wolf got faster and faster and faster. And then Maurice, I think that was his name, knocked his head on a statue and fell down, and remembered nothing more. You'll need to change your pace, your voice, and the mood depending on what the story is and what's going on in the story. If you can, especially if it's, you can change the story. Unexpected twists. So some stories are very famous. Kids are going to know them. They're going to know Three Little Pigs. They're going to know Hansel and Gretel. They're going to know Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, perhaps. Well, you can change things. You can when it's appropriate. Comic relief. You can make things funny when you can. This is especially true with your facial expressions, things like that, being very active. So we'll see how it goes. When it comes time to end, you'll need an ending. Stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and you need a satisfying ending. You don't need everything to be tied up in a pretty little bow. Well, it helps, but you do need an ending, and it helps to have a satisfying ending so the kids are happy to have heard and watched you tell the story. So it helps. The more you practice the story, the better you'll be. You'll be better. You'll know when to change, when to take action, when to change your voice, and when not to change your voice. So that's something that we'll get into as we look at more specific examples. So that is our basic overview for storytelling. It's nice, easy peasy, short. With us having the different projects, I see no urgent need to have any quizzes or tests this semester. We got a lot more smaller tasks and the video lesson projects as well. They're much larger in that degree. So I am gonna put up some reading so we can start getting acquainted with stories. And I hope you have a good week. And I'm going to attach an example video of storytelling. We can see some different styles in that. All right. I hope you have a great week. Stay safe and goodbye.